They have tools and resources to not only understand local market conditions, but also communicate with their agent. You'll have the insight into seeing what their activity is, and you can use that to better communicate and collaborate and exchange information or advise your customers. And all of this leads to faster transactions. Buyers tend to buy faster, sellers sell faster. Know that the agent is always totally in control and informed. I'd like to draw attention to this very powerful statistic that the agents that are using Listing Book, really the way that it was designed to be used, are more successful. Look, they're closing 5 more transactions per year. So now we're going to really delve into best practices. Now, my advice to each and every one of you joining today is it may not be possible for you to try to implement all 10 of these best practices. So depending on what your user level is, maybe some of you are brand new to Listing Book and just getting started, or many of you are really, experienced users of Listing Book looking for that edge. I want you to maybe identify 3 or 4 that you could put into practice right away. I am sure that if you can identify, if you can take 3 or 4, start implementing them right away, that you will be on that path to success with Listing Book. To begin with, let's start with tip number 1. I'm going to introduce you to Betty Meinel. She's a real estate professional and executive in Long Island, New York. When Betty was first introduced to Listing Book several years ago, her first reaction was, it looks great, but it also looks like a lot to learn. So what she did, she knew that in order to give it her best and really learn the system, she'd have to dedicate time to make it a priority. And she decided that every day from 8 to 8:30 or 8 to 9 in the morning was going to be her dedicated Listing Book time. She would log into Listing Book. She said that she found after 3 or 4 weeks that she was having success. She was very comfortable with the layout within the system, and even when other agents in her office had questions for her, or questions they directed to her, she was often able to answer them. So at that point, she felt that she was having success with Listing Book, that it wasn't as much of a challenge because she had dedicated that time. Now, at the end of the day, I think that her suggestion of setting a daily appointment to use Listing Book helps you be more efficient and effective from a time management standpoint. So think about how you can allocate time in your day to learning Listing Book. There's an old saying, it's 30 days makes a habit. So maybe you want to dedicate the time for the next month and really just make a concerted effort to log in. Now, the next suggestion is set up a practice client. And this is so important for those of you that are concerned about what your customers are going to see within Listing Book. Mark Hall had that reservation. When he was introduced to Listing Book, he looked at me, he said to me, Lisa, this looks good, it sounds good, I think that my customers would benefit. As a matter of fact, I know my customers would benefit, but I really don't feel comfortable giving them access to something unless I know what they're going to get. So the suggestion was, well, set yourself up as a practice client, or why don't you give some of your customers or some friends or family members client accounts and ask them for feedback. But if you can understand it, if you will set yourself up as a practice client and see it through the eyes of the consumer, or if you get the feedback from others, then that's going to give you better direction on how to move forward with adding all of your buyers and sellers and prospects, and that's what's really going to help you be successful within the system. So again, if you have any reservation about giving access to your customers, set up a practice client. This is ultimately going to help you give great service in the long run. Here's how you're going to set up a practice client. It's the same steps that you go through to set up a real client. So you're going to log into your listing book account. You're going to go to your client manager, right? Your client manager is your contact management application. It's where you go to give accounts, and it's where all of those folders, those client folders, are stored. And you click either the Add a Buyer link at the very top if you're adding a buyer client, or you click Add a Seller if you're adding a seller client. Now, it is possible to have somebody set up as both a buyer and a seller. Just click either one of the links, and then at the end of the process, it's going to walk you through a short wizard. At the end of the process, you'll be prompted to now give them buyer or seller services. So if you start as a buyer, at the end, it's going to suggest that you give them seller services as well. So it's literally going to walk you through the process. Tip number 3, this is my favorite, and I preach this every opportunity I get. This is Earl Ruthman. He's a broker in Chicago, Illinois. His success story overnight came as a result of importing 800 contacts into Listing Book. He had exported 800 contacts from his MLS system, imported them into Listing Book, and overnight had past customers or contacts that he had not been in touch with for a long time log into Listing Book. They accepted the invitation to log into and logged into Listing Book, and one of them decided to list their house with him. So think about his suggestion here. Enter everyone. Nothing bad can happen, but something good might. This is going to give you more sales opportunities. So the single best way that you could jumpstart your success with Listing Book, if you're new to Listing Book, or if you've been dabbling and giving a few buyers and a few sellers accounts, the single greatest way to increase your sales from Listing Book is to put in as many prospects as possible. You can import them. I'm going to show you how to do that in just a minute, but this is going to give you more sales opportunities. Now, the process of adding prospects is easy. You go to Client Manager, and you're going to click on the Add Prospects link. When you click on that link, the very first screen you see is a page that has all of these blank form fields, and you can simply type first name, last name, and email address. Those are the 3 required fields for multiple people all within this one form, and you can click Invite. Once you click Invite, they'll receive a welcome letter to Listing Book, and if they click through to accept that invitation, Listing Book recognizes that they don't have buyer or seller services and prompts them to take that action. Now, if you have contacts in a database, maybe you have contacts in your MLS system, or maybe you have purchased leads through other online sources, if you can export that data, if you can get first name, last name, and email address exported and saved as a CSV file, you can click Import Contacts and now import the file. And this would be a great way to add hundreds or thousands of individuals at a time. I had a discussion with an agent yesterday who has 1,300 leads that he's exporting and then importing into Listing Book. And all he's going to do once he imports them is sit back, revisit his client manager, and see who logs in. From there, he's able to now qualify interest level. This is the Welcome to Listing Book email that all of those prospects or clients are going to receive when they're invited to Listing Book. And remember, they have to click through to accept that invitation. There are a couple tools within your listing book account that can help you get more accounts opened. From Client Manager, if you click through to the client's folder, under the listing book account module, you see two links, Resend Welcome and Invite via email. Resend Welcome is going to resend that system-generated email, that email that I just shared with you. Invite via email is going to launch the default email program on your computer with an email with their username and password in the email itself. But because it's launching that default email program on your computer, all you have to do is click send, and now an email is received in their inbox from you. Tip number 4 is from Kathy Irvine, who's a top listing agent in St. Louis, Missouri. Her tip: get 100% of your sellers on Listing Book. Now, I'm going to share with you in just a minute what the impact of that is, but let me first show you Kathy's Client Manager. We can see from her Client Manager, she has all of these client folders. They all have an address associated with the folder under the property activity column. Each address is the seller's listing or potential listing, but you can see that there's the competition column that's always reporting to Kathy changes, the new properties that have come on the market or changed their price around where each one of her listings is located. But what's even more powerful here is that you can see that sellers have login activity. These sellers have been invited to use Listing Book services. They're logging in and they're looking at their competition with their own two eyes. It's this type of activity that ensures that sellers are more realistic. Another great feature, though, is that when sellers have active Listing Book accounts, the system is going to automatically drip on them on behalf of you, on behalf of the agent. Here's an example of a morning report email that a seller is receiving. It comes every morning alerting them to new properties that have come on the market or changed their price within the MLS in the past 24 hours, but it's also showing them performance statistics for their listing on a daily basis. This is representing viewing activity on behalf of all of the buyers in the local market. But think about how important this is for your sellers to see that you're working for them every day. Now, the impact is incredibly powerful. Sellers with Listing Book accounts account for 33% more price reductions. And when we take a closer look at the price reductions, we identify that those sellers with Listing Book accounts, their price reductions are larger. They're 32% larger. In addition, those properties sell faster. Reason is sellers are engaged, sellers are realistic, sellers see with their own two eyes what's happening in the market. Now, tip number 5 is from Joan Millman, who happens to be the founder of Listing Book and still a practicing real estate professional in Greensboro, North Carolina. One of her little tricks, is to give her buyers Listing Book accounts, and in addition to giving them buyer services, she sets them up with seller services as well. She said that she was finding a lot of buyers want to be looking. They want to be finding their next perfect home, but they can't buy until they sell. So she found it incredibly effective at listing more properties or motivating those buyers when they were understanding of what was happening around where the property is located. Let me give you a good example. My husband and I were thinking of buying a new house a few years ago. We were in a small house in a great location that has a lot of investment properties. All along, I wanted to keep that property and just keep it as an investment. Well, my husband was adamant. He wanted to sell before we bought another house. I gave him a listing book account. I set him up with buyer services so he could start looking in the areas we were talking about. But I also gave him the seller services so that he could see what other homes around our house were listed for and were selling for. Out of the blue one day, he comes to me and says, "You know what, Lisa? I have a great idea. I think that we should keep this house as a rental and go ahead and buy." And I asked him what made him feel that way. And he said, "Well, because I've been looking at all these other homes that are for sale around here, and there's no way that I'm willing to sell this house for the prices that these people are getting on their houses." I just looked at him and said, "Great idea, honey. We'll get the ball rolling, and I'll list this house now as a rental." But keep in mind that by having him see with his own two eyes what was going on, it impacted his urgency, and we ended up buying a house just a few weeks later. So how do you do this? When you give someone seller services, you're always prompted to assign an active listing. Most of you are likely familiar with this. You go through the process of adding a seller, you see all of your active listings, you check off a box, and you click continue. But you may be missing the link that says enter any other address. This is what enables you to give seller services to someone that doesn't have an active listing. Once you click that link, you're going to be prompted to enter their property address and then continue with defining their competition area. It's that easy. Tip number 6 is from Marianne Rolnick, who's a top producing agent in Jacksonville. One of her favorite tricks or uses of Listing Book, I should say, is something that helps her convert for sale by owners to actual listings. She gives Listing Book accounts to any for sale by owner she sees. Her position is she's giving them access to a system that's going to help them be realistic about what to sell their home for. So she's providing them a service by keeping them informed and just giving them the most accurate, complete data. But what she's getting in return is the ability to stay front and center with them and really supporting organized real estate. Every morning when those for sale by owners check their email, they have a morning report email from Marianne letting them know what's changed in the local marketplace in the past 24 hours. Now, what they're not seeing is performance statistics for their listings because they don't have a listing. But they're seeing that all of these other listed properties are being emailed to consumers in the marketplace. So she says that 9 out of 10 times the for sale by owner ends up calling her, asking her how they can get their property emailed to all of those buyers, and her response is, you need to list. Or they contact her because they have thrown their arms up in the air, they're frustrated with trying to sell on their own, they realize they need the assistance of a real estate professional, and guess what? She's the one with them. She's already had the ability to demonstrate her customer service, her client servicing, because she gives them Listing Book accounts. Tip number 7, never delete an account. Move it to prospects. This is a great way to drive referrals and repeat customers. I have a customer that I sold a condo to about 4.5 years ago. At the time, they weren't sure if they wanted a single family or a condo. I showed them both. They ended up going the condo route. Every day since they closed on that condo, they have logged into Listing Book. They have logged into Listing Book over 10,000 times. They have received a morning report email from me every day. They have, every time they've logged into Listing Book, they've seen my face, they've seen my name. That is exposure that I couldn't pay for. Every time real estate comes up in conversation with a neighbor or a friend, their immediate response is, we need to hook you up with our friend Lisa. It's not that I'm their realtor, I'm their friend, because I've had so many touch points. I've been with them and participated in the experience with them for so long now that they consider me part of their family. And they have given me so many referrals over the years. But not only that, now they've come to me and said, hey, Lisa, it's time to buy that single family. So think about how powerful it would be if you simply kept all of your clients in Listing Book but just changed their status from client to prospect. How do you do that in the system? At Client Manager, you have a link at the very top that says Switch Client Type. And when you click it, you're going to see this screen. You see all your clients on one side and all your prospects on the other side. And all you have to do is just highlight the client and click the green arrow to move it to your prospect side. Most of you are familiar with moving prospects to clients, right? Successful Listing Book agents use Listing Book as a qualification tool. And once they see that prospects are warming up, they move them to clients so they stay on top of their activity. Tip number 8, and I love this one, become an expert user of Listing Book. This is John Lennon. He came to one of my sessions with all of the Online Help Center resources printed. I'm not suggesting that you do that, but I do want to let you know that all of the resources are available for you to learn Listing Book and be effective at using Listing Book. Here's a screenshot of the Online Help Center. There's a Help tab on every page of Listing Book, and it brings up all the different resources in the form of video tutorials and recorded webinars and even printable help guides. Also available to you is one-on-one coaching and training with a Listing Book Pro coach. There's a toll-free number. I'm going to type this into the public chat window. I've just typed that in, so take some time and write this number down. It's 866-353-3456. At any time, you can call the help desk and have one of our wonderful Listing Book Pro coaches assist you with your Listing Book account. Tip number 9 is a suggestion on behalf of Donna Overman. Donna Overman, when she was introduced to Listing Book Seller Services, her first reaction was, oh my gosh, this is something that I've been doing for years. Listing Book just helps me be more efficient at the process. Listing Book has reports for you to be sharing with your sellers, and it's these reports that you turn to better advise sellers on the marketability and saleability of their listings. These are the tools that you're going to use when you're preparing to ask for price reductions or eliminating expireds. This is the additional analysis that you turn to really let your sellers know that you're the quintessential expert. You are that real estate professional that's constantly analyzing listing trends, sales trends, and viewing activity for each one of the listings. So there are 3 reports, and these are available to your sellers to see within their listing book accounts as well. This feature, the Seller Reports feature, is a Listing Book Pro feature. So keep that in mind. That's the only fee-based feature that we talked about so far. Now, tip number 10 is Jim White, who's a broker owner of a Century 21 in Florida. He's found that the most effective open houses are a result of him running 2-week marketing campaigns for each one of his listings. In Listing Book, a marketing campaign is known as a property promotion, and it's a way for you to reverse market your listing to the audience of buyers specifically looking for the listing. Here's how it works. Listing Book always lets you know the number of potential active buyers in Listing Book. It always lets you know the number of buyers that are matches for the listing. And if you choose to market the listing, you would spend $25, and that property would stand out to all of those buyers several ways. It's going to appear at the top of their morning report emails. It's going to stand out on the side of every search result page. So really the focus here is maximizing exposure to the right audience. These properties are viewed 10 times more. Open houses actually, if there's an open house promotion, those buyers would receive an invitation flyer to attend the open house. And the results are very powerful. The impact, more showings scheduled, 61% more showings scheduled, 10 times more viewing activity, and those properties sell on average 27 days faster. Now, I'd be remiss if I let you go without giving you my own suggestion, and that's use Listing Book to its fullest. Use Listing Book the way that it was designed to be used. Upgrade to Listing Book Pro. It's only $20 a month, or you could save money and upgrade for $220 a year. That's going to give you 1 month free of service. But it's going to help you save money down the road because you'll likely be able to replace so many of your costs, your out-of-pocket costs now. Here's what is included in Listing Book Pro: the agent branding. So to have your photo at the top of every morning report email and within the agent account, within the client account. Your website, which is your lead generation tool. There's a vehicle here that encourages and allows any website visitor to create their own Listing Book account or log into their account. The seller report, tip number 9 from Donna Overmond. Listing agents, it's imperative that you have that analysis. And the beauty of Listing Book is that you literally have that data by clicking a tab. Custom flyers enable you to better market your listings. Community information for each one of the listings in Listing Books. This is a tool that would dramatically help your buyers be more effective or efficient at researching neighborhoods. Now, here are next steps that you can take immediately that I encourage everyone to take. Remember, take my advice, upgrade to Listing Book Pro. I think that it's one of those things that, I hear a lot of times from agents to say, well, I'm going to play with the basic version before I upgrade to Listing Book Pro. My position is that if you don't have everything available to you, then you don't know what you're missing out on in the first place. Anyone that needs a little needs me to sweeten the deal for them, if you call the Listing Book Help Desk or shoot me an email, if you reference code Lisa A, reference code Lisa A, you'll get a $20 discount on your subscription. So it would be $199 for the year as opposed to $220. Well, technically it's a $21 savings, but we'll also be able to give you 2 free property promotions so that you could try those out and see what the impact of promoting your featured listings and open houses is. At the very least, remember that in order to make Listing Book work for you, you have to enter buyers, sellers, and prospects. So make sure that you start entering them today. Take advantage of downtime. If you have downtime in your business now between the holidays, start putting in as many people as you can. You will see results. And then finally, do what the pros do. I hope everyone learned or picked up on 3 or 4 suggestions on ways to utilize Listing Book. And remember what Betty Minell said, make it part of your daily activities. So if you found a few things that you would like to implement, maybe dedicate the time every day to working with that feature, okay? Now, I've received several questions throughout the webinar. I'm going to go ahead and try to troubleshoot them. I know several of you have had audio issues, some comments that you can't hear. Make sure that that your speakers are turned up. Make sure that the audio is on, and then if you did mute the audio, then maybe you should, if you muted your device, maybe you could unmute your device and use the audio feature at the very top of the iLink screen or vice versa. All right, I have someone that's made a comment that they're having a problem sending the invite letter with Internet Explorer. You know what, there's so many, I know it sounds like a simple question, but it really could be for a number of reasons. Listing Book, if you're talking about the letter that you can copy and paste, that is designed for you to copy and paste and put into your own email program. That could be an isolated issue to your email program or your browser. If you're talking about the automated welcome to Listing Book email, it could be the recipient's internet service provider that's blocking the emails, and in that case, you'll want to add or ask them to add mail service at lbmorningreport.com to their safe sender list. I think the best suggestion, if you're having this type of technical issue, James or anyone else having technical issues, is please call our help desk. They'll be able to work with you individually on the specific issues. If you want to stay on the line for a few minutes, after the Q&A session, I can do my best to try to troubleshoot for you and that would just require me asking you questions, a little bit more specific questions to be able to troubleshoot the specific issue. But if this happens in the future, the best course of action is for you to call our help desk. Remember that 866 number that I gave you earlier, and they'll be able to investigate that further for you. Dawn asked if you'll be able to get this presentation later. Absolutely. In all of our follow-up emails, we will be providing a link to the recorded version of this session so that you can play it at a later date. A couple of you made comments about the screenshots. Know that this webinar was marketed as Learn from the Pros for the 1.0 version of Listing Book. If you're joining me today and you're already using the Listing Book AI program, please make sure that the webinars that you register for are marketed as Listing Book AI. We do have another one of these sessions this afternoon for AI markets. The screenshots look different and some of the functionality is a little bit different, but the impact is really the same. So hopefully it was beneficial for some of you to join, even if you've already converted to the new system. Next question was specific to my comment. Never delete an account. Just move it to prospects. The question is, great question. What about when it expires? You know, you'll always be alerted. If you're in the 1.0 system, you will be alerted to those accounts expiring, and you can keep those as active. The Listing Book AI system has actually removed the expiration date, so client folders never expire. For those of you that may not be familiar with AI, Listing Book AI is really just the next generation of the Listing Book system, and we're currently in the process of converting all 70 markets to the new version. So it's possible that your market has not yet converted yet, but it should in the next few months. Okay. I'm receiving several questions. I just need a moment to kind of read through. The next one I approached is pretty lengthy, so I just want to be able to paraphrase it for the entire group. You know what? Some of the questions are coming from the Santa Clara MLS and Bay East. You know, any questions that are specific to your local market are going to be much better addressed contacting the Listing Book coaches. They'll know the ins and outs of how the data is reported in each of your markets. I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste some of these very specific questions and send them over to our help desk so that they can follow up with you later in the day and be able to answer questions that I'm not able to answer. But know that if the data that's in your Listing Book account is going to be the data that is entered into your MLS system. Okay, hopefully that answers your question. Next concern is about site speed in Internet Explorer and features not being supported in Google or Firefox. Know that Listing Book, the entire system is supported. The entire system in 1.0 is supported on all platforms. It's the Listing Book AI version that may not work completely on Apple products, but Listing Book can still be used on browsers like Google Chrome and Firefox. Now, features that are programmed using Flash may not be 100% if your device doesn't support Flash. For individual issues with speed, I would encourage you to notify the coaches. They'll pass it on to the technical support desk, and they'll be able to troubleshoot for you. Next question is regarding importing contacts, and we're just going to take the questions out for just a couple more minutes. If I import contacts and send them all an invite, do they only receive a buyer account, or can they enter their address and create a seller account? Great question. In the 1.0 system, they'll be prompted to enter a search, and that search is going to be specific to buyer services. So it's going to set them up with a home finder. You'll need to identify, once you see that they've logged in, you'll want to connect with them and find out if they're interested in buyer services or seller services. If in fact it's seller services, then you can always convert them to a seller. But the Listing Book, the objective initially is to get them engaged and then let you build on that level of engagement. Now, in the Listing Book AI system, you'll be able to,
they'll be able to set themselves up with seller services. So that was a huge improvement that was made in the new system. The next question is about the Lisa A code to renew. Will you be able to use that to renew your pro membership? Great question. I'm a huge fan of saving money too, Jennifer. What I would encourage you to do is call the Listing Book Pro coaches. They'll be able to renew you at the discounted price. So you can definitely take advantage of that, even if you're an old timer, not a new user. Linda asked, when do we get more information on the website and using it for lead generation? That is a great question. That's something that we cover in our marketing webinar. We don't have any of those scheduled for the month of December. However, we do have them in a recorded version. So I will email you a link, Linda, to access that webinar. If anybody is looking for specific training resources on specific features, you can email me a request and I will follow up, or you can request follow-up materials from the pro coaches, and if they'll even be willing to help you individually. So great question, Linda. We'll make sure that you get the resources that you're looking for. Let me just go ahead and make note of that. See what other questions we have. I hope that I'll be able to get through all of these. Question again, or the question is just asking for me to repeat the number for the help desk. It's 866-353-3456. And just so everyone knows, we do have help resources for the website for the 1.0 version, but also for AI. So good to know. If you are contacting me for additional information or resources, make sure that you reference what version of the system that you're in, and I'll be happy to provide that. Again, 866-353-3456. And yes, Listing Book Pro does support or does have a Listing Book website. Jeff, good to see you on the webinar. I'm not sure why you've lost slides after number 8. Seems like everyone else was able to see the slides. Why don't you give me a call? I think you have my contact information, or shoot me an email. We'll connect together, and I'll be able to help you troubleshoot. There's also, iLink has a live help desk that you can contact. It's most likely related to your connection. Let's see, I answered several of these questions. Everyone's going to be receiving a link with a recorded version of this webinar. Mark asked, why doesn't Listing Book work with multifamilies or duplexes? It does. It depends on the market that you're in. And Listing Book AI now has a feature that supports multifamily as long as your MLS supports multifamily. So if you're in a market that hasn't yet converted to Listing Book AI, then know that you'll have that feature very soon. Sherry asked Sherry asked a question about the offer to get 2 free property promotions for existing subscribers. If you contact the Listing Book help desk, they'll be able to assist you. But know that everyone attending sessions, present and past, has had the ability to receive promotions for action. So contact the help desk. I'm sure that we'll be able to make everyone happy with the offers that are being suggested. The promo code again is Lisa A, and you can see that if you click on the public chat screen, or public tab on your iLink chat module. I'm getting that question a lot. Is there a CMA feature with Listing Book? Yes, there is. And for anyone joining us today that uses the Listing Book CMA, I'm sure they would rave about how wonderful it is. It's very easy to create the CMA. It's interactive. It suggests the competitions for you. It updates itself. It's a great feature. It is a free feature in 1.0, and it is a fee-based feature in Listing Book AI. Next question, and you know what? I'm going to take questions, just 3 more questions. I cannot begin to let you know how much I appreciate your participation today. I apologize that we don't have enough time to answer all of your questions, but hopefully everybody knows how to get those questions answered. First question is, how do you get for sale by owner's email address? A couple ways. First of all, you can go to the door and you can ask for it. A second thing that you can look into with Listing Book is a product called Quick Farm, where you can actually purchase homeowner leads in your areas, and Listing Book will simultaneously connect you with those homeowners. For more information on Quick Farm, you can visit www.myquickfarm.com or contact the help desk. Unfortunately, our help desk made the mistake of telling me the other day that their call volume was low. So, let's all call them and try to keep them busy throughout the day. Next question: what's the best way for my current Listing Book clients to adjust to the new AI format? Oh, Dawn, that is the question of the hour. And I think we're going to end on this question. For those of you joining me that have already converted to Listing Book AI, I think the best way for you and your customers to get acclimated to the new version is to make it a priority to log in. I promise you, every time you log in, you will see something different. And it's going to help you. The more you see it, the more likely you are to remember it. Now, in the upper right-hand corner of every page of Listing Book AI, there is a button that says Need Help. And there are help resources available for you, but also for the consumers. The most important thing that you could possibly do is give us feedback. We had built this new version and focused on the features that agents have been asking for, and really focused on simplifying the processes and making the navigation easier. But I think we've realized that we may not have gotten it completely right. So we're so dependent on your feedback, areas that you and your customers are having issues. It's so important that our team knows about it so we can take steps to correct it. Now, there are going to be some changes that are just, unfortunately, the way that they are, and those might be for privacy issues or really as an effort to ensure that all of those morning report emails get through to the end user. So we want to make sure that we're not being blocked by internet service providers, that there isn't any interruption in service. So unfortunately, some of the features that may be frustrating may just be necessary, but if there's something that is that we could correct or make better, then we want that opportunity for you. So hopefully most of you were able to get your questions answered. I'm going to leave from the audio portion, but stay on the line if you've asked a question that wasn't answered, and I'll respond through the chat feature. Again, thank you so much for your participation today. I will see you all on another webinar or in a live session again soon. Take care, and hope everyone, if I don't see you or hear from you before the holidays, I hope everyone has a very happy holiday season and ready for to really kick things into high gear in 2013 with Listing Book AI. Thank you so much. Take care.